You're listening to Making Money Online with Lisa Johnson, the podcast that tells you what it really takes to build a business and the simple steps to get you there. I'm determined to share with you the reality of easy, simple business marketing tips to make passive income so that you can start making money online. As entrepreneurs, you know speaking can help generate leads and help you make more money online. Well, my friend Trisha Brook is the transformational speaker mentor for you. If you want to shift from being a good speaker to a great speaker, there is someone I know who can guarantee your success. I've known Trisha for years and she's one of the best in the business. She's literally supported thousands of thought leaders in becoming top speakers and influential voices. Speaking is how you become the authority in your field. When you have the tools and techniques to speak effectively as a leader, your credibility skyrockets. Trisha is teaching a 2-day live virtual masterclass on February the 7th and 8th for just $47. This masterclass only happens twice a year, so you need to register now so you can add speaking to your business model for 2024. Speaking is a lucrative revenue stream for many entrepreneurs, and virtual speaking is a thing too. And that's why Trisha's 2-day live virtual masterclass is so important. When you have the skills to effectively communicate, your speaking career will add to the revenue streams you already have in place to make more money online. And like me, she's high integrity, no scarcity marketing, and consensual selling. Head on over to theartofthebigtalk.com/MMO and start stepping onto big stages. You'll find the link in the show notes. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode. One of the things that has happened to me over the last sort of couple of years is I started building a business to make money. I had to get out of debt. It was the reason that I had a business in the first place, and it did that. But I slowly started to realize that making money for now is one thing, but what about the future? Like, I realized that I needed to make wealth as well as money now. I think there's a real difference between being rich and being wealthy, and, you know, knowing that when you want to retire and stop working, you can still live and to the standard that you've been living while you've been making money. And so some of the things I've been doing recently have been about investing for the future, not just for now. And the person that I have on today is really good at this. And I wanted to have a conversation with her about how she started doing that and how she's making money. So welcome to the podcast, Niamh Eadie. Niamh helps people leave corporate life to follow a career in consultancy and property development. So there's lots of different angles to what Niamh does, and I want to delve into some of them. So welcome, Niamh.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
No worries. Let's get started with when you first started your first business. What was that business in?
Well, my very first business was actually a speech and drama school, because when I left school and was heading into university, I knew I needed an income to get me through university. And so I had also, as lots of kids do, I'd done all the speech and drama exams, done my speech and drama diploma. And so I thought, okay, I will set up a little speech and drama school, and rather than work in a bar or work in a pub and make £5 an hour, I'll get small children's parents to pay me £4 an hour. I'll put 10 of them in a class and I'll make £40. So I started a speech and drama school at the age of 17, and my sister joined me a year later, and we paid our way very well through university. We were very students. And actually, my sister still runs that business today with my sister-in-law. It's now Ireland's biggest stage school, and they have 1,000 pupils. They employ 45 teachers. It's a real success. So it still survives today.
And you then went down the consultancy route. Yes. Tell me a bit about that.
I got my degree at university and left university, went on a well-trodden path from Dublin to London with lots of my friends, and started to work for some of the big management consulting firms in the UK. And I did that for a number of years, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the work, gave me great experience, but I was an entrepreneur at heart. I come from a long line of entrepreneurs, and I knew I would always have my own business. So 25 years ago now, I set up my own management consulting firm, and it was very niche. It was advising law firms on business strategy and technology strategy to allow them to to maximize technology, really, to run their businesses more efficiently. Very niche, and my clients were and still are the top 250 law firms in the world, because I still run that business today.
And that went well, and you made money from that business, and you made a lot of money from that business. When did you first start thinking, hold on a minute, what about later on?
Okay, so exactly, I've run that business for a long time. It's a great cash flowing business. It was very much a lifestyle business initially, because it has allowed me to live the life I've wanted to live, a very flexible life. I have 2 teenage daughters. I've been around for all of their school shows, plays, holidays. It's given us an amazing lifestyle. And as they started to grow up, and as the business became less taxing for me, because I don't do any of the consulting, I just run the business. My role in the business is very much a CEO role. I manage the relationships with the law firms. I manage the relationships with partners. I have some big partnerships, and I manage the relationships with my consultants, obviously. So I had more time, more free time, and my children were starting to grow up. And I came to the realization that a couple of things, actually. If I stopped doing what I was doing today, what would happen? What would happen to my business? Now, whilst I had stepped away from the actual doing of the consulting, it still would grind to a halt, because I was very much a center of that business. It doesn't hold my name. It doesn't have my name in the title, but
You're running it.
I run.
Yeah. And that's like lots of us, isn't it? Lots of us are running a business that actually, if we weren't in it, would stop.
Absolutely. Because you are the person that people know. I'm the person that, these law firms know. I've been in this business for 25 years. People know me. I could put a manager in, but, ultimately I would still be involved, and it would stop. It would stop very quickly. And I guess I started to come to that age as well, where you start to think, like why am I on this earth? And, what am I going to leave behind? And, what am I going to live on when I retire? And I hate the word retire. It's such an outmoded, outdated concept. But yeah, so that was all mulling around in my head. And I had, a bit more free time. My children were now at school, and I thought, what could I do? The other thing that was playing on my mind was I don't like to rely on one revenue stream. Multiple sources of income is where it's at, because all sorts of things can happen. And so the thing that caught my attention, and I knew it always would, had dabbled in property in the past. I knew that was where real wealth was created. Generational wealth is created. I had a couple of buy-to-let properties, kind of by accident, properties I'd moved out of and just kept and rented out, and they were okay, but they weren't that exciting. And I didn't think that was my route to, generational wealth. But I knew that I would do something in the property field.
And it's interesting with property, because there's so much information out there, and there'll be people saying, don't bother getting into property. That's not how you make money. And there'll be people saying, yeah, just buy loads of properties and that will be your pension. There's so much information out there, and so much information as well about how much money you need to even start going into property. Like, I was terrified of property because people told me, you need like $1 million to put into it to even start with anything. But you didn't start with a lot of money in property.
No. So I think there are two very extreme schools of thought on property. There's a whole load of people that think and believe that you need a lot of money to start in property. There's another whole narrative that's played out a lot, particularly by property gurus and trainers, that you need no money at all to start in property. I don't subscribe to either of those schools of thought. You don't need a lot of money, but you do need some money to start in property. And how much you need depends really on what you're going to do, and how you're going to go about it.
What did you do?
So what I did, well, the first thing I did was I went and got some education, because I'm a real believer in education. I love learning new things. I always go and look for somebody who's done what I want to do and done it well, because why would you dabble around and make all the mistakes and lose money and take forever to get going? I went and I found a woman who was running a kind of property mentoring. She had an amazing track record. She doesn't do it anymore. She doesn't do mentoring anymore, but she definitely does property. She's retired and living in Barbados.
It worked.
So I thought, okay, she looks like someone I could follow and work out what she'd done. And she just opened my eyes to, how to finance property developments. And there's a whole world of how you do that. The different types of property you can get into. It's not just about buy to let. There's property development. You can develop residential property. You can have commercial property. There's a whole world out there of different property strategies. And I just soaked up all of that information and learned as much as I could, made contacts with the right people that I needed to make contact with. And then there's no better way than just getting on and doing it then. So, after kind of, following her around for a year and, getting to know people in the industry, talking about it, I then just got on with it. I knew that I wasn't going to do small stuff, because that's, there's no point in doing, learning all this, you're learning from somebody who's as experienced at this, and then just going, I'll just buy a couple of buy-to-lets.
And it'll take too long to make money on that as well.
Yeah.
Like, you want big money.
Yeah. And the excellent thing about property is the ability to use leverage. And that's not just leveraging money, which, property is a great way of leveraging the pot of money you've got. And you do that through all sorts of lending, both investor lending and bank lending. But also it allows you to leverage skills. You can't, you won't be able to do everything in a property business. And I kind of modeled what I do in my consulting business into my property business. So I looked at, what is my skill set? What do I do in my consulting business? I am the piece in the middle that brings all of the other pieces together. So I find the clients, I find the partners, I find the deals, etc. And that's exactly what I do in my property business.
I manager sort of role.
Yeah, like the deal maker, the person who brings the deal together. And then what do I need to deliver that deal? I need a whole raft of people, architects, planners, finance people, project managers, all sorts of people, in order to be able to deliver that product at the end. And that's all it is. You're just delivering a product. Whether that product is a block of apartments or a commercial office space, retail space, whether you're selling that product or whether you're retaining that product into your portfolio, they're all just different aspects of that property business.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I just found my niche. What am I good at? And then I brought in all of the other skill sets into that business.
Oh, that first property that you sort of made, did you develop something?
So my very first property deal, I didn't develop at all. So I secured an old college building that was up for sale, and I secured that under a contract. I went through the planning process with that to convert it into 10 apartments, and I did intend actually to go ahead and develop that out. But I was approached through my architects by a company who wanted to buy that building with planning. And they were prepared to buy it for a lot more than I was about to pay for it. Okay. So my first deal, I actually didn't develop anything at all. I just put planning on the building and flipped it on and made a profit.
That's good.
So yeah, that was brilliant. And I still, that strategy today is still part of my kind of portfolio of strategies, as it were.
When you do that, when you have like a contract, and they're expecting you to buy like an old college building, do you have to put all the money in for that yourself? Because I'm assuming that's like quite a lot of money to buy a college building.
No, you don't have to put all the money in yourself. And also you'd be surprised at how little you can pick up an old college building for example. So commercial buildings, so people think about, going out and buying a house and, doing it up and selling it on. And you can do that. It's a very good property strategy and you will make money if you do it correctly. But actually, old commercial space is far cheaper per square foot or per square meter than run down residential space, for example. So to give you an idea, I could buy a 4-bedroomed house in my city, for example, for a rundown 4-bedroomed house in my city for about 350,000. Or I could buy, which I have done in the past, I could buy an old school building for 350,000 and convert it into 10 apartments. I could buy a building that has 4 commercial units on the ground floor, so 4 shops, and 2 floors above it, which were old grotty restaurant space. And I could convert those restaurant spaces into 6 nice apartments.
Actually, the money isn't the money you're buying it with, it's the converting bit.
Converting, it's what you make out of it. So you're making a silk purse out of a sow's ear. So for 350,000, I bought this big chunk of property in a very, very smart, tourist area of the town. I could have bought a 4-bedroom house for that, or I could buy this. I now have 6 really smart apartments. I let them out on as serviced accommodation, and I have 4 retail units.
But how
which would you rather do?
Well, I know which I'd rather do. How do you get people to put in the money to kind of do the conversion bit?
Okay, so there are several ways that you can do this. There's bank lending. They're not your normal banks, so you don't trot down to Lloyds Bank, although Lloyds do some commercial lending to developers, but that's not where you go. There are specialist lenders for developers, for builders, and they will provide all sorts of the algorithms that they have for how much they will lend you are quite complex, but they will lend you the funds to purchase a building, the funds to renovate, develop, build new houses. I sometimes buy old care homes, which I convert the old care home into apartments. And then an old care home is a great development site because they typically come with a bit of land around them, or a grotty old building that you can demolish, and then you can build some new houses on the site. And there are lenders out there that will provide lending for those sort of projects. There's also private lending. You get an awful lot of private individuals, organizations, pension funds that will lend for a return on their money to developers that have a good track record.
Did you not find this scary at the beginning? I kind of think I'd love to do this. Like, I'm fascinated in this kind of stuff, and I'd love to go and buy a care home and go, right, I'm going to make 4 apartments. It's going to look amazing. But then it's like having to go and get somebody else's money, which is like millions. And then what if it all goes wrong? Like, it terrifies me.
Well, the first thing to say is it definitely can't go wrong, because there'll be some very, very angry and very broke people knocking on your door. So yeah, you have to make sure before you start that you have all your ducks in a row. You need to know the end game. You need to know how much that building, that development is going to be worth at the end, with a giant margin for error in there. So you do need a nice, comfortable contingency in there. The other thing you need is multiple exits. So a lot of people don't realize this when they go into something. They go, oh, I'm going to sell that at the end, or I'm going to keep that at the end. What you need to be able to do is prove that whatever the market is doing at the time, you can pivot to multiple exits. So you can sell the entire scheme if you were intending to keep it, or you can keep it if you were intending to, sell it. You could do a bit of both. So you could sell some, keep some. So, if you've got a development of, 10, 15 properties, flats or houses or commercial units, it may well be that you sell a portion of them to pay down the debt, and then, finance out the rest, or, you might get I always call them free commercial units is one of my strategies, where if you buy you walk down any high street, you'll see a shop with 2 floors above it, for example. Those floors may or may not be converted into apartments, but you can buy that building, either convert or tidy up the apartments above, sell off the apartments above and to pay down your debt, and then have a free commercial unit. Now, it doesn't set the world alight, a small shop on a parade let out to, some mom and pop business on a long lease, say for 15 years, but brings in a nice steady income.
Well, that's it. And it's about starting, you can't all start with your giant things, can you? You start small and then you use the money you've made to get the next one, I presume.
Yeah. And really, I have kind of 3 strategies underpinning my property development business. 2 broad strategies. One is building a pot of money so I can become my own bank, more and more over time. And the second one then is building up assets that I can hold on to and keep. So I do 3 main things. I do, like my very first project that I told you about, but buying something that doesn't have planning. So taking that risk, putting planning on it and selling it with planning. That's a great strategy. You haven't got a huge amount invested in there. You don't need a huge amount of money to do that. And it will build up your pot of cash for it to allow you to become your own bank. Then I build to sell. So I buy stuff that I then develop out and sell, often in its entirety. So my second project, for example, was 2 floors of office space that I converted into 14 apartments. And I sold all of those. And that gave me a great big pot of cash that I could then, that then makes you very agile in the marketplace when you're looking to purchase stuff, because cash, particularly at the moment, cash is king, and with the way lending is going at the moment. And then the third thing, which is where the real generational wealth starts to come in, is I now retain an awful lot of what I develop. And that is either residential or commercial space. And I retain that into a portfolio, which will generate an income for me and for my daughters, and hopefully generations to come, and will change the trajectory of their lifestyle, their lives.
Amazing. I think what you've done is amazing, because you didn't have the skills for this. You went and learned how to do something and then made a ton of money after learning how to do it, you took risks. You have to take risks when you do these things, and they paid off. And I'm sure that there will be some that didn't pay off, but you learn from them, which I absolutely love. And you now teach others how to do this and how to do consultancy, yeah?
Yes. I think, people reach a stage in their lives, like I did, where, you realize that you want to create a lifestyle for yourself in the future. Also, I think a lot of people reach a stage in their careers where they think, maybe kind of, rather than, I don't like throwing out ages, but, maybe when you kind of reach that age of 50 and you're still working in a corporate job and you think, oh, can I really do this for the rest of my days? And also, do you really want to retire at 65 and just do nothing? Like, what are you going to do? So I think you kind of need 2 things in your life. One is something that generates you an income, and an awful lot of people who've worked in corporate for a long time think, well, how could I generate an income for myself? I've always worked in corporate. So many of those people can leave and just do the same thing on a more flexible basis, and sell their services back into the corporations that they worked for. So I help people to do that, because that's essentially what I did when I set up my consulting business. I just did the same thing, but I did it myself. And I built up a team around me. You don't need to do that. You could just do it yourself. So I do help people leave the confines of corporate and set up their own businesses. And often people are very they're worried about that, not so much worried about their own skill set, but they're worried about all of the bits around them that they have in a corporation. You know, in a corporation, you've got an HR department, you've got
everyone, haven't you?
You've got somebody who literally does everything, who prints out the badges when you walk into the building. But having run a business all my life, I realized that there are lots of people out there that can help you do that. There's a whole, there's like a virtual corporation of people. Yeah, the people that can help you do your PR, people who can help you do all the time. And again, it's all about leverage. Do what you're good at, and then let the other people, employ the other skills as and when you need them. You don't need to employ them. They don't need to be sitting at desks in your front room. You can build your virtual corporation, and so that I help people do that. And then I also help people get started in property development. There's an awful lot of con men and women in the property education space, people who've not really done it. I know there's that old phrase, isn't there? People who can do and people who can't teach.
You don't want that with something like this. You want someone who's done it.
You don't want some wide boy standing in front of his Ferrari going, I've made a fortune in property. They haven't. They often have just made a fortune telling people untruths about how to make a fortune in property. So I feel I have a lot to offer the world because I've actually done it. I've been there, done it, still doing it. So I help people to get started.
Well, watch this space, because Niamh is going to help me get started because it's something I've always wanted to do.
I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, me and Sam are going to get started on our property journey, and Niamh's going to help. And I will talk about it on this podcast. I will let you know how it all goes so you can see how it works. But if you are thinking, do you know what? I need help with this, go to Niamh. Niamh, where is the best place for them to come seek you out?
So I have started to put some stuff out on social media. So I now have an Instagram page and a Facebook page. I'm known as a most unlikely builder because I build buildings, build businesses, build wealth. So you'll find me, and my name is quite difficult. It's a difficult spelling. So I do have my name in the title, but if you Google a most unlikely builder, you will find me on all social platforms.
And don't worry, we're going to put the links in the show notes as well, so you'll be able to find Niamh really easily. Thanks, Niamh, for coming on and talking to us about this. I could talk about it all day. Like, property fascinates me, and I'm also terrified of it. So it's like those two things. I'm that person that just buys one to let and makes it really well.
It's not making me very much money.
No, hold on a minute. Wait for the wealth. Thank you for coming on and telling us about this, and thank you everybody for listening. As always, go and have a look at Niamh, and I will be back next week with another episode of Making Money Online. Thank you for listening to Making Money Online with Lisa Johnson. If you'd like to get hold of my guide to launching, go to lisajohnson.com/launch and let's get you making money online.